So welcome everyone. Happy 2022. I know you've probably heard it a lot, but you haven't heard it from me. So happy 2022. Glad to have y'all here for the Advancing Human Rights Committee's Racial Justice Subcommittee meeting. Let's do introductions, and if you will please include in your introduction any expectations you have for today's meeting. I'd like us to take 1 minute per person. If you need more time, please put your expectations in the chat. But as I said, you can also add it here to the agenda. I need to put this link in the chat. And once I have this link in the chat, everyone can access this agenda, which is in Google Docs. So we'll go one at a time. You've got 1 minute, and I will mute you after your 1 minute's up. It's not to be annoying, it's just to keep us at 1 minute. And anything else you have to say that you didn't get to say in your 1 minute, please put in the chat, because we want your ideas. I really want us to generate good ideas today. So we're gonna start. Donna, and then Donna, hand it off to someone else after you go for your 1 minute. Unmute, do your introductions and any expectations you've got for today.
Hello, I'm Donna Peel. It's peel like banana peel. It's hard to, it's a difficult name, so I'm just putting that out. It's January here in Cape Cod. It's the time of Capricorn, of going to the top of the mountain, envisioning in the thin air. And so I'm glad to be here to work on foundations of what work we can do coming in this next year. I'm excited to be part of the group and report on what we're doing here on Cape Cod at some point. Thank you.
Okay, great, Donna. Joan?
Hi, Joan Goddard in the San Jose, California area, and I'm also looking forward to this meeting, and thank you very much.
No expectations for the meeting, Joan?
I see the agenda and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Great.
So I'll hand off to Philip.
Well, good morning, and I'm calling in from Hayward, California, and I don't have any preconceived expectations today, so let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Julie?
Hi, I'm Julie Kabukani, and I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm also looking forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Glad you're here, Julie. Beatrice?
Hello, everyone. My name is Beatriz Schultes. I'm actually living in Costa Rica. I'm with IB member and the regional representative, and I'm very, very grateful that you included me in this to listen, basically to listen and to learn in which direction you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So glad you're here. Teresa?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
You know how my phone cuts out sometime. Teresa Elamine, calling in from Columbus, Georgia, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch organizer and the Black Liberation Caucus initiator. And my expectations for the meeting today is that we will clarify whether we're doing internal racial justice transformation, or if we're doing solidarity work with movements led by people of color, or both. So I want to make sure that we clarify that as a kind of goal for our conversation, since we're committed to 90 minutes. Let's make sure we have some decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Darian,
Okay, there. I am Darian DeLue. I'm from the Sacramento, California branch, and as probably everyone knows, I'm president of WILF US. I'm here today primarily to find out what the plans of the committee are and to encourage the committee, because I think racial justice work is extremely important. And building on what Teresa said, I have previously expressed that I believe the primary work of issue committees is to work on issues that are political issues in the world outside. That's a lot of what WILF does. As I indicated in an email I sent last night, by organizing WILFers to do work on racial justice and combating white supremacy culture in the outside world, I think that will give people a very tangible experience of what white supremacy culture looks like, so that they'll be more aware and alert to any manifestations of it that might pop up in WILF US. So I think it'll work for the benefit of our inner work, but to me, the main focus of the committee is sensibly with outer work. Thank you.
all righty. Amazing, you got that done in a minute. So our next agenda item, and based on what we've heard from people's expectations, we may want to add items to the agenda. I know that Teresa said she wanted us to make some decisions. I'm going to put that down here. And Donna also talked about the foundation of work. These are just the words that came to me, y'all. They may not be correct, and y'all have access to this to add stuff too. Foundations of work, decisions, internal transformation, and then or solidarity work led by people of color, and or both. I heard that. Did I miss something? Is there more to add? And again, you can add in the chat, and you have access to the same document to add to it too.
I just was going to say that I am all for solidarity with actions led by people of color, but I also would suggest that there might be other kinds of racial justice work that we would do in the outside world, certainly not in opposition to what's led by people of color, but I don't know if solidarity work is the only kind of work we want to do.
Okay, so these, anything else that we need to add to the agenda or find time to cover during our discussion? Last call. Okay, so when I put this agenda together, I have here centering racial justice work within WILF US. That both is about how we would make sure that racial justice is integral to the work that happens within WILF US and what that looks like. That may not be the right wording for it, but I want to open it up for going around, prioritizing what y'all identified already in terms of a foundation of work, decisions about internal transformation, solidarity led by BIPOC folks or both, and racial justice in the outside world. Those expectations trump or are more of a priority than what I wrote, because I didn't have that input when I put this together. So I want to do a round where we've got 2 minutes each to make comments that would inform either our bottom-up capacity building, where we're centering racial justice work within WILF, or any of the items that were identified during our first introduction. Hope that's helpful. And Is there anyone for stack or anyone's hands up? I've got to stop sharing so I can see y'all. Put up your hand or say stack. You've got 2 minutes. I see Donna. Go ahead, Donna.
Oops.
You're still muted.
There I go.
There you go.
I wanted to report that our Cape Cod branch had decided that our work this year would be this 8-session program that we've put together, with one of the sessions being about racial, or a lot of them connected. But we've taken a completely, we're putting that on the back burner. We are taking up voting rights as our main projective, but we've already put together an International Women's Day program that is 3 plays by Candace Perry that's called Racial Reckoning. And Sally Ty, who's an African-American woman here on Cape Cod, will be running a question and answer at the end of it. So, and also we're trying to connect that with some voter questions. But we've ordered a few copies of the book about the WILF history of racial bias from 1915 to 1975. And we've started—
1 minute, Donna.
And so we've got a couple projects going in this arena.
Oh, you got time left. I'm so sorry. I'll put up a finger for y'all in future. My interrupting, I know, is disruptive and annoying.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Thank you for forgiving me. I got Teresa on stack. Teresa?
Thank you. I switched to my other device, so hopefully I won't have sound problems. But I think Darian is so off the mark in thinking that we should avoid the kind of discussions that Donna talked about. No Peace Without Freedom, that book by Dr. Joyce Blackwell, says it all in terms of our willingness to work on the white supremacy, quite frankly, inside of WILF US. And I think the Women, Money, and Democracy and Issue Committee, by the way, Madam President, which has taken the approach that they will do all of their work through a racial justice lens. So I will be glad to be a part of that issue committee when it meets on January 29th, so we can continue to pursue what happened at the retreat that kind of blew up a bit. But now that we have come back together, and I'm recruiting other women of color to the Women, Money, and Democracy issue committee, so that they are committed to doing their work through a racial justice lens, Madam President. Check.
Thanks, Teresa. Anyone else want to be on stack for this go round, where we're exploring? Let me put it back on the screen. We're exploring what is the foundation of our work, building a foundation of work. And is that internal transformation, solidarity led by people of color, or both? Racial justice work outside, in the outside world as well. And I haven't heard anyone speak against the centering racial justice within WILF, the racial justice lens that Teresa just referred to. And the note I have here is bottom-up capacity building, meaning bottom-up within WILF from the chapter level up. Darian, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I guess I'll just say that, as I mentioned in my email, and as Donna implied, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Donna, but right now WILF has the voter work as one of our 2 solidarity actions, and the work on voter rights is critical racial justice work. So to me, that's an example of work that focuses outside of WILF, and I can see certainly that racial justice should be an important part of WILF work. For me, centering WILF work should be on peace and justice, of which racial justice is a critical part. I am just a little uncomfortable with the idea that it's the only centering element. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Last call on this. Okay. So I'm going to shift us to move to, so let's say that we've identified the work as including what y'all have mentioned, including the kind of work that we're doing that's peace and justice work, that includes racial justice work, but is not limited to the internal transformation of WILF. It's not limited to doing solidarity work that's led by people of color. So right now, I hear this is all included in people's thinking, unless I hear different. That's what I'm hearing. So how do we engage our chapters? Starting with the chapters we're part of, how do we engage them in this work? Donna gave a good example. Let's start. How do we support and resource it? And Donna, you covered all this. You talked about how you engage people, how you're supporting them to come together in these sessions. You've resourced by buying the book from 1915 to 1975, and you're working at the chapter level. So can we do another round of 2 minutes each with suggestions of how do we engage, support, and resource chapters to do this work? Stack or raise your hand. Mercy. Y'all don't have any ideas about how we, thank you so much, Teresa Elamine.
Well, as many of you might know, I started out in the Black Power movement in 1965, known also as the Civil Rights Movement, but I entered during the Black Power period. And I can tell you right now, the work was about voting rights, and we had very few reliable white allies during that period, as has been proven we don't have now, in the fact that the Democratic Party can't even get the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act passed. It's dead in the water. So anybody who's working on that, who's not Black, you're wasting your time. So those of us who are Black will vote Black when the time comes, like in Georgia, which is a battleground state where Stacey Abrams is running for governor against that racist Brian Kemp, and where Warnock will be running to hold his seat in the Senate. So Georgia is a place where the showdown is occurring, and I'm all down with that. But the most important thing that a peace organization should be doing is understanding its niche in the world. And its niche in the world is working for peace. And that Mayors for Peace initiative of the three choices that the one Wilf called explored, I just feel is so pathetic that Wilf wants to grab on to stuff led by Black people. The Poor People's Campaign, the voting rights, work on peace, which is your issue. It's the problem with us having this proliferation of weapons and militarized police forces all over our community using Army and military grade combat gear. That's what WILF should be working on. WILF should be working for peace, because that's what it's about. And if we work for peace, we will get freedom. Check.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone else have suggestions or ideas about how to engage and work bottom up with our chapters? I hear somebody's background, but now you're gone.
Darian Stack.
Yes, Darian.
So I am focusing for the, sorry, I'll pass for a moment. I'll be right back. No, okay, that's just trash phone call. Sorry, I can't get rid of it. Just focusing for the moment on the solidarity actions, since Teresa brought those up. Both the voter rights work and the Poor People's Campaign work are peace activities. The Poor People's Campaign is supporting a 50% cut in the budget of the Department of Defense. Additionally, the voters' work means that we might be able to elect people to Congress who would support that 50% cut. So I bring those up to show that whatever work we do, depending on how we do it, it has significant racial justice implications. And of course, the Poor People's Campaign represents a whole swath of people of many colors, but predominantly in this country, a lot of poor people are people of color. So working with the PPC is indeed working in solidarity with a movement that is a people of color movement. In terms of how to get the branches moving, I think what will speak most effectively to them is if this committee comes up with specific proposals that are thought through, that are strategic, and that are actionable with measurable goals that the branches can then participate in. Branches have a lot going on, so by giving them something specific and discrete, they can begin to connect with this committee and then might more and more embrace the work we're doing.
Thanks, Darian. Anyone on this topic, engaging, supporting, and resourcing the chapters? Well, I might have to ask for your grace on this, which is forgiveness, but I now am going to give us a 2-minute distracting comedy moment. I find it to be a comedy moment, and it's on topic mostly, but it's also to just for giggles. There's another word people would use along with giggles, but I'm not going to say it. Okay, then here you go. That's never not funny to me.
Yeah.
I hope it amused y'all. It was intended to amuse.
Thank you.
Now I will put our agenda back on. Yes. Sometime you need
Amuse and focus and think and all those other things, right?
Wow. Okay, then. Pull up our agenda.
We
So
have two.
now we're pivoting a little bit to looking at our subcommittee and our scope of work. There's a few things in here we have not identified. Our recommendations on how we approach our work, that's here, connecting the dots. Under the advancing human rights work and all of the subcommittees, there is a way that racial justice touches almost all of those. So how do we connect the dots between our work as the Racial Justice Subcommittee and other subcommittees? Let's do any rounds, and I'll take anybody's hand or stack to come up with how do we connect the dots to the other subcommittees and racial justice. Let me hear from you, please. Teresa.
Well, George, this is turning into a debate between me and the president because no one else is talking. However, I see no reason to drag this out for 90 minutes. So I hope we can kind of agree to get through the agenda, but end the meeting at 1. Because I do want to get on with at 2, so I can get on with my busy day. But the point that I wanted to make in answer to your question, please repeat the question, George, so everybody else can hear it and maybe somebody else will get on the stack.
How do we connect the dots between the Racial Justice Subcommittee and the other Advancing Human Rights subcommittees? Because racial justice is a component or a theme or front of struggle in all of those, or most of them.
Well, that is the dilemma. You know, when Joan Goddard created all of these different committees, subcommittees, it means that it's just a lot of committees doing work on different things. But the biggest dilemma is the Racial Justice Subcommittee, because it does intersect with everything else. That's why the Racial Justice Committee has to begin to look at capacity of an organization that has been historically institutionally racist. How does this organization actually engage in racial justice work? And I would say thanks to the Black Liberation Caucus, now staffing a significant number of the subcommittees, we may get some movement, but this committee is the most difficult, because racial justice is about everything that we do or should be for wealth to white supremacy. So I'm real clear about how racial justice intersects with the UN decade and reparations. And we will be doing that meeting tonight at 7 p.m. So I hope some people will join it so they can hear from the eminent person, Akinyele Umoja, and we can have some discussion after that about the actual work that we're doing. Over.
Thanks, Teresa. So anyone else have any recommendations on connecting the dots? Okay, so for now, it means we attend the other subcommittee meetings and look for opportunities to work together or whatever organically comes up. All right, y'all. So anyone here interested in being a co-chair of the Racial Justice Subcommittee? I'm happy to convene and, set up the Zoom and all, but don't really have the capacity to co-chair a committee. Anyone? Dang. All right. Wait a minute. Let's see.
Maybe in the future. Right now, I'm overcommitted, but I'm here and willing to do work that the committee does. I just can't take on chew off anymore because I've got a couple of things coming down the hatch that I've already committed with.
That's true, D. Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw your note in the chat. Thanks a lot for that, Darian. We want to hear from people too, but depends on if people want to step up and have things to say. So we don't have anyone who's ready to be a co-chair. How about someone who's willing to facilitate the next meeting? I can set up the Zoom. You just have to do the agenda and facilitate. Anyone?
I'll do it.
I heard
So if someone else, if someone else goes first, fine. Otherwise, I'd be willing to help.
Can I be heard? Can I be heard?
Yes, Philip, are you? Oh, and I heard someone besides, I heard Phil. I can't see y'all. I'm so sorry because the screen.
I have a very short point of information.
Okay, what's that, Darian?
That anyone can can facilitate the meeting, and we do have a WILF US Zoom account. So it's kind of you, George, to volunteer your account, but also people are welcome to have access to the WILF US Zoom account for having a meeting. Thanks.
Excellent. That's a resource we could use if you need it. So Philip Cole, are you saying you'll volunteer to?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I think that as far as the racial justice partnership, I think that working with the Poor People's Campaign is probably the most progressive way for this committee to move forward on working on racial justice issues.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Philip. So last call, and so far no takers to facilitate next month's meeting. Oh, Dee, you said you were willing. Are you?
Yes, I am.
Thank
I'm
you very
willing.
much.
Is it going to be exactly a month from today or?
Well, we can set the meeting date. Are there any announcements? We may end before 2 o'clock. That would be amazing. So anyone have announcements? You got anything going on that you want people to know about?
I'll make an announcement.
Go ahead.
There's going to be another subcommittee coming out under Advancing Human Rights. I expect that we'll all interconnect and overlap at different points with other committees, but and so there's going to be a lot of good work, I think, coming out of the collaborations, like with this committee. The group that is being formed is called the Domestic Prisoners of War, and DPOW for short. It is about women specifically geared at one demographic, and that is the goal is to aim eventually to treat women who are victims of domestic violence that wind up with criminal impacts and having their entire lives destroyed, treated as a protected class. The research indicates a lot of the women that are in prison right now, it's directly connected to a domestic partnership. Oftentimes abuse is involved, and a lot of them did not have criminal histories prior to the entry of the partner that has adversely impacted the direction of their lives. So our focus will be on women that have, criminal fallout, have lost their families, careers, etc., as a direct result of domestic abuse. And it's not necessarily only a racial justice issue or only, one issue or another neatly fitting into the other subcommittees. It will overlap though. Demographically, we know, people that don't have the funds to truly adequately present a case in a criminal justice system wind up, with the criminal histories and records that in turn impact their ability to parent and to work and contribute to society. So it's more of a focus area, on the impacts of domestic abuse on women. Thank you. Over.
And this is a new subcommittee, you say? Yes?
Yes, it's still under Advancing Human Rights.
Okay.
So we'll all be working together.
Thanks for letting us know that, Dee. Any other announcements? Last call for announcements. Okay. So next meeting.
Sorry, I also had my hand up, and I see Donna has her hand up. I thought you would be aware of the hands up, but I'll happily speak after Donna.
Go ahead, Donna, and then Darian.
I just had a thought that I wanted to share, that I think it's important that we all, in whatever branch we're in, talk about this issue, talk about it in and how it relates to any action that we do. We here on Cape Cod are this was a big slave trade place. We have a big history of in Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. So we're all somehow connected with it. And I just think we have to bring this issue into every single thing that we put together for our branches to do, and then share nationally, internationally. A lot of information out there, but we can still try to catch the attention of as many people as possible.
Thanks for that, Donna. That level of consciousness is essential. Darian?
Catch the attention.
Darian?
Thank you. And thank you very much, Donna. I thoroughly agree. And I want to remind folks that Wilf US has been publicizing the existence of a 20-page listing of resources and references, particularly on undoing white supremacy. In my branch, we've been using items from that list, short videos and short readings, to be the basis for a discussion each meeting of a shorter or longer length about some of those different aspects. I guess I was taken aback somewhat that we have gone through the agenda, and I kind of thought it would come up under one of the items, but I haven't heard any kind of even just a basic brainstorming, not a decision making, but something to get us started on what kinds of specific actions, and I mean specific, a campaign, a project, an issue, do people want this committee to undertake? I know that I have been at another meeting of this committee, and I'm not sure how many other meetings have been in between, but it seems like it's time for the committee to actually start saying, okay, this is something we want to work on, so that if we did a brainstorm today, we could have a list of things and then say, okay, next meeting we'll be able to talk more about these. Just as an example, we might find ways to support the June Poor People's Campaign gathering, or we might find ways to do a local Zoom event in our communities or nationally on an issue that this committee believes would be useful to present in some kind of a webinar. I'm not specifically suggesting those, I'm just giving them as examples, but the whole idea of issue committees is that they present projects and activities that motivate and activate our members. But I'm not hearing about any projects or activities yet, and that's after several meetings. At the same time, I just want to acknowledge, yes, it's important for us to get structures in place, who will be convening the committees, the committee meetings, and so forth. So I don't mean to ignore that part of the agenda. It's just that I think there's more to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Darian. And you're right, there is more to be done. But there wasn't a lot of folks who were willing to say stuff today, which is fine by me. But thanks, Dee, for agreeing to do the next meeting. I would like to flag for that agenda, if we can, since it's on the recording, that to add an item where we ask about locally, the local work in your chapter, how are people putting into practice all of that they have learned? So you've read the materials, you've looked at the movies and the videos, you've studied whatever you feel like you need to study, and what actions is that inspiring? Have you got more people of color in your branch? Are you holding events that are central, that are focused on racial justice at your branch? What's happening? That's for the next meeting, if we can, because I'd like to know about that, because I know we're trying to do that in the triad. So Dee, what is a date you want for us to look at for the next meeting in February?
Would let's see, would a month from today work? Friday, February, what is this, the second week in February?
Is it? Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So, oh, and I have another meeting on the 13th, but it's not until the evening. So if this time works well for everyone, I can do it at that time. What is it? 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern.
And you're saying February
13th, Sunday.
It's 1 p.m. Eastern.
I have
Yes.
a conflict that day. The 13th and 14th are completely blocked off for me.
Okay, I'll listen to other suggestions then. I can't do the 20th. We have a larger meeting with another organization. I could probably do it. I could do it on the 20th, like before or after 6 p.m. Let's see, It would have to be early. So it couldn't be in the evening.
The 20th, how about
I
this
want to
time on the
interrupt.
20th?
Could I interrupt for just a minute? This meeting is on a Friday, and I know some of the meetings have been on the Sundays.
Oh, my mind is defaulting to Sunday. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Okay.
Help with
so-
finding a time that would work.
Yeah, so Friday the 11th.
I can do Friday the 11th. Other people, Friday the 11th at what time, Dee?
Same time, same place.
Okay, Joan, your hand is up. Is that from before or do you have something?
No, that was because I was about what I said. Sorry.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, so Friday, February 11th at 1 Eastern. Dee will be sending out the agenda and facilitating. Thank you so much, Dee Murphy. Any last words from anyone? Anything that needs to be said before we're done? I actually have a groovy video we're going to watch, but I have to stop the recording because, capitalism. But anyone have comments?
No, thank you for your work, keeping us together and keeping
I
us
love-
going.
I
Over.
love the film you put up. It was great.
5-Hour Empathy. You can search for it on YouTube. It's hilarious.
We always need a light and lively, everything's so serious. And so I thought that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now,
I
this
hope-
next one I'm going to play, I find it's very inspirational, but I cry every time. So
Yeah. Oh,
full
good.
disclosure, but I have to stop the recording.
And Joan's hand is